Imagine standing at a point in time when craft people make tools out of stone. Perhaps they take breaks in between to ponder on their work, perfecting the technology available then, thousands of years in the making. Welcome to the Neolithic age in the Khasi Hills. Close to Maitilang Park lies a significant archaeological site, Myrkhan. This site was discovered by archaeologist Dr. Myrkhan, a faculty at the Department of History at Union Christian College.
This is a site, it's called Myrkhan, and we have excavated way back in 2015, and I have dated this site at the earliest level. It was, it came a date of 1900 BC, so almost 4,000 years old occupation of the site, and it has been continuously occupied. And the reason why the site became attractive is because of the presence of a raw material of a stone called amphibolite raw material, which is actually a basic rock type of Khasi Hills. So these stones are very useful for fashioning them, knapping them into stone tools because of the siliceous nature. So the cleavage are very regular, and hence people are attracted for thousands, perhaps for hundreds and hundreds of years. They've been using this place to start knapping their stone tools. And you have evidence of this on the basis of these debitages. These are debitages that come out in the process of a person flaking the stone. Okay, when a stone napper naps the stone tools, these were removed, these bits and pieces. Okay, and indication of that is because we know as archaeologists they have these scars, what we call conchoidal scars, which are extracted when you remove small chunks from a big chunk. And what is left behind now are few of the discarded tools that are already in shape but have been discarded by those flint nappers, by those tool nappers, because probably it was not very useful, it did not reach that desired shape and design. So I have discovered at the upper layer, however, probably there was some kind of a settlement here. And we find that not in the lower layer. In the lower layer, it's mostly of a place where they come for seasonal flint napping. But upper layer, I began to see stone tools appearing, finished stone tools that you see there. I have not dated the upper layer, which may even come back to, let's say, to the 2nd century AD, who knows. But this site has been continuously used as a factory site because of the availability, again, of that source down there along the cliff of this site. We have another site of this similar nature in Pentholington Giant Hills, and some sites that I've discovered also in Garo Hills. The material here is amphibolite. In Garo Hills, you have a different raw material. They use dolerite, which is much harder, much difficult to work on. But since this raw material is much easier, perhaps that was the reason why you have so much of discarded items.
Terming Myrkhan as a factory site, Dr. Myrkhan showed different stone tools, finished and discarded.
So you have a variety of stone tools. You have the axes, rudimentary axes, which are very common. And you have also complex tools, like, for example, spindle wheel, where they use for spinning thread, cotton thread. You have these ring stones where they use to add weight to a spear. Then you have the chisels. A variety of tools began to multiply in the site, in the upper layer. And the lower layer, somehow they're very simplistic. Mostly the rudimentary stone axes that you find in every Neolithic site. So it reflects a very interesting feature, because as we go further, you never know, as we dig along this entire space here, we may encounter many more evidence. We have done some also paleobotanical study of the site, where we find varieties of vegetation, domesticated grains, domesticated vegetables or seeds, cereals were found from this site. So it holds a potential.
Historically, cultures have flourished along water spaces. The presence of the Umiam stream makes Myrkhan a significant site. People who entered the Khasi Hills followed this stream, which joins the Brahmaputra in Assam.
The early movement, migration of people into a landscape, will evolve for the source of the river. River not only because it's availability of water, it's because the availability of a lot of more raw material for them to fashion stone. So as I explore along the banks of the Umiam River till it reaches the Kupli, I know there are plenty of stony sites because these are the migration route. And probably this was one of the terminal states, terminal zone of that migration. From here, I could see so many technological innovation began to appear. The mixture of probably 2-3 types communities mixing here, exchange of technology. And you start seeing that, closest side, opposite right of the side, you have the Soviet building site, which I excavated in 2013. So the story is already there, as if it's already well placed in the pages of prehistory.
Ulom Sopit Bning is just a few kilometers away from the famous Umiam Lake, as the Umiam Valley lies on the foothill of Ulom Sopit Bning, or the umbilical cord. Interestingly, Dr. Mitri has also found remnants of an ancient settlement at the Umiam, at a time when the water level was at its lowest in May 17, 2023. Artifacts like a monument, burial cists, and iron slags underneath the lake were found. However, excavation at this site is difficult as the site remains underwater most of the time. But excavation at Myrkhan is not that difficult since the site is located atop a hill.
Here we are trying to explore some stone tools, pottery or whatever archaeological remains can be found. So we actually have to scrape it very slowly with this chisel. Okay, this is how we scrape slowly. If we feel some hard objects, then what we do is that we take this brush and we use with the brush. Okay, and if there's anything which is discernible, which can be seen by the eye, then we try to see and examine what kind of material is it. So this method has to be very slow, it has to be very delicate, a very careful process of scraping, and then like I told you, and brushing. Okay, because through this slow scraping and then constant brushing, then only we can be able to see the stone tools as well as the potteries, whatever is there inside the layer.
Department of Eco Science. They have been crafting these stones for years, thousands of years. By the time they discover iron, when iron become a common material, then slowly it takes away. Then the stone tools disappeared. That's what so here we have more of cord and press, more of primitive type of pottery, less of carved paddle. Whereas on the other side, dated 1200 BC, Sopitanang side, I have more of carved paddle, which means that side is already well established.
History is a science, it's part of social science. So it follows the same rules of science. Evidence, proving something, conducting experiments, verification. So history is a very difficult science. So we need to keep history as a scientific discipline. I heard about Dr. Marco because he's doing such important work, because these are the foundations of culture, and we need to preserve this. Otherwise, things get wiped out and urbanization comes in, westernization comes in, and it's all lost. So I'm always looking for people like Dr. Marco who are trying to discover our past and make it exciting for the present.
First of all, we're going to list it as part of our heritage site. It's an archaeological heritage site. So we're going to list it as one of those sites that needs protection and preservation. And maybe we can work with the team here to have a kind of where this, as Marco was saying, this community driven archaeology.
Till today, we found no other sites older than this one. So that is the importance of this site. And perhaps another thing which I was just thinking is that this entire area, rather what I would say the entire Meghalaya plateau, is itself a kind of a geopark, where we have so many things embedded in it, including the human settlement sites. It's a quite old. Old in the sense because at that point of time we would not expect anybody to be around, but we've found one of them over here.
Sengaja jungi kebenikong ni songkumen mo. Ada wasya isu ada kan kini ki cinglap kan ni caka. Ada ka sarkar kap kaya yo ini ka ai kino kilat ban nyarap long ni sengudon cingkermen. Ya kalau we jungi la kalong ki kam kamai mo layo kamai kecil tika mut ka snow kan pau ngi ki perut ngin yo kacing mentoy nak kena caka
em kadon kacing mentoy hangi long hangi ba kadon jum mentoy hagi hadin jongi ru kidon jum mentoy la da kane caka ka long ka sarkar ka itu mo.
Because I've opened up hardly 5% of the site as of now. And from 5% of the site, I've already uncovered so much of relics, for which somehow I am a little bit guilty of myself for not really projecting the site more, because I thought there'll be a time in the future where I can open the site in a much better way. But I know it holds a lot of archaeological potential, and it will help to really open up the prehistoric understanding of prehistory of Khasi Hills, of Meghalaya, and especially of Northeast India.
I'm here in Myrkhan village in East Khasi Hills district, and it is the onset of the monsoon season, which makes excavation difficult for Dr. Marco Mitri. But we are here today because a few officials from the government have come to the site to explore the site in order to find ways and means on how to conserve this area.
Right now we've started doing a recce. Before we present, we have to prepare a proper plan, a feasibility studies to be done. Then the different components that we want, we will put them on paper, which means we will be hiring a designer to ensure we can digitize this entire vision that we have. So it's going to be a teamwork, it's going to take some time, but we'll be expediting efforts as much as possible. Because there is a lot of interest also in finding out who we are and where we come from. And I think the fact that Meghalaya and also the northeast of India is not sufficiently on that map yet, this is a great potential, and I'm sure with time this will develop.
We plan to have a site museum, because all the artifacts that I've collected from this site, I want to display them in this site itself. I don't like the idea, but carry these artifacts to a museum somewhere in the city. I want them to be here, and people visit the site, conduct a small excavation here. They do a kind of experimental work here. So this is in the heart of the city. When I say tourism, I don't mean a kind of tourism, people come here and enjoy or party. That's not the kind of tourism I expect this to happen. And even the village here would not also endorse that kind of a tourism. So we have discussed threadbare about this matter. What I mean, tourism here is purely academic and scholarly based tourism. Elderly people, retired professors or students, PhD scholars, or students who come for field work. I mean that kind of a tourism, because these are also tourists in a like manner.
Nakaliang kajongi ang ila terang ban penne ke jaka. Na makajing temu jongi hi kung kasnong kalong kawei ne pning jaka puli. Siapang bagin tip, siapang ki longshwa ki manshwa ki bladon hakani kari ke be ke jongi. Berkomjur ban penne pensa ya gini ki ke bakini ki longshwa manshwa ki la bu. Nakam ta kajing tip ke jongi ki longdin ki mandin. Mangangit baling wa kani ke jaka kanyarap ru ya ki kena puli ki banwan kani ke jaka bakin wat jing tip shu. Siapang kita ki beriu ki bladon hakani kari ke be ke jongi ba khamtam hakani ke jaka hapo mokong hang ni hapo Myrkhan.
So knowing the present is good. It's a gift. Envisioning the future is good. But how do you get these solid idea, objective idea, unless you really go back to the past? So objectively, history helps us to create a pattern for the future in a more objective manner.
Look at this, how they flick the stones back then. As you can see, the stone that I'm holding right now, this looks like an axe. See, this was before the Iron Age, where the man back then only used stones. They flicked the stones to make this. This is fascinating because according to our conversation with Dr. Marco Mitri, he said that because the raw material for this particular stone is available down there, so the man from the early days would go to that area, bring up that raw material to this place. As you can see, we can call this a production site or maybe a factory back in the day, where they flick these stones to get these tools, these stone tools. So this is indeed a center which is very rich in these prehistoric tools, or stone tools as we call it. You know, this area, along with other areas, archaeological sites that have been found in the state, they are a key. They hold the key to our past and to the origin and the migration of the Khasi and the Jaintia communities here in our state. Going forward, we only hope that the government would extend its support in conserving and preserving this archaeological site so that it can become a source of information and knowledge for the generations to come. This is Iban Mauri for the Miglayan.
For more news updates, subscribe, like and share.